dance for joy.
So welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, the series where we look at nostalgic cars that are over 15 years old that you can buy for a budget between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1979 Austin Allegro Estate 1500 Super Series 2. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So we have had an Allegro on Sensible Secondhand Classics before. A very nice 1974 1300 Super Deluxe in blaze red, which is owned by Alex from the Alex's Assets channel, who's actually here with me today. This isn't her car though, it belongs to a gentleman named Graham, who's also part of the Allegro Club. And it's very, very rare indeed. The Allegro Estate was introduced in 1975. Actually, there are some Series 1 Allegro Estates out there. They're not very many. We didn't make them very long at all. But there are one or two, I think, remaining. The Series 2 introduced in 75 was like this one, and then the Series 3 came out in late 79. The engines available in the Allegro Estate were a 1.3 A-Series engine with about 60 horsepower, depends a little bit on the year. This 1500 E-Series engine with 70 horsepower approximately. And then you could also get the 1250 version of the E-Series engine with this with automatic gearbox, as far as I understand it, which is about 77 per PS, I think, something like that. We are on hydrogas suspension. Actually, on this rural road in Herefordshire, it's actually dealing with the bumps really quite well. I was very impressed when I drove Alex's Allegro in 2021 and just actually how kind of modern that felt for a car from 1974. And this is no exception. It's actually got a bit more power. It reminds me of the Maxi that I drove in early 2022, which had the 1750 version of that E-Series engine. And actually the gearbox on this is a little bit better. I don't know, maybe it's because the mileage is showing at 45,000. Whether that's the original, whether that's actually 45 or 145, I have no idea. We've got a flick wipe as well, which is quite handy, because the weather's been sort of really on and off today. To drive, it doesn't take that much getting used to from one of the more modern cars. The engine started straight up, no choke needed, no pumping, nothing like that. The car's actually quite quiet as well. We've also got a 5-speed gearbox in this, so if we were to go on the motorway, it actually wouldn't be that bad. Steering is nice and direct in this. Of course, I'm not sure you get power assistance on any Allegro. Unlike the Mark 1 Granada that I drove recently, I'm actually really grateful for the fact that we've got 2 wing mirrors on this car, because that didn't have any wing mirrors at all, and in the 70s it really wasn't a given that you get any wing mirrors. Alex's Allegro's only got one. I think, despite being a Super Deluxe, like the passenger mirror, you've had to sort of either request that or get one yourself. Actually, yeah, it seems to handle really quite well for a car like this. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, a Vauxhall Viva or something like that. Vauxhall Vivas are terrifying. The amount of body roll on a Viva is extraordinary, particularly these little early ones. I mean, things like the sports hatch would be probably a little bit nicer in that respect. But yeah, it just feels just a lot more modern than a lot of these older cars that I've driven from the time. Certainly compared with Vauxhall Chevette, which has a gearbox a bit like a Series 3 Land Rover, but the gears are just not where you think they're going to be at all. This feels really smooth and actually quite easy to change gear and easy to drive. One thing is the steering at parking speeds seems quite heavy. I think because we've got the heavier engine in this, it's a little bit worse than otherwise it would be. I think the A-Series Allegro would not be as heavy as this. I've asked Graham, who owns this car, how many Allegro estates there are actually left, and it's not very many. I don't even think that they were necessarily that popular when they were new, but it's under 50 as far as people know. I think actually this is maybe an even more interesting piece of design than the standard Allegro that we've got right there. Another car we've had on the channel. I'm very grateful to Alex from the Alex's Assets channel to actually put me in touch with Graham, and we just happened to actually be in the same area at the same time, which was very convenient. So this is a very late Series 2 Allegro estate. That actually dates from late 1979. There are a couple of sort of Series 3 Allegro bits on the car, such as the surround for the interior door handles and things like that. Number plate's in an unusual position, which is good. We've got some reversing lights. We haven't got any fog lights, but then again they weren't required until I think 1981, so that's okay. Nice conventional way to open the boot. There we go. No gas struts here. Also got this incredibly rare load blind. Apparently Graham has never seen one of these apart from this one. It sort of hooks onto there really. It's quite hard to do with one hand, but there we go, we've done it. And if we lift up the carpet here, we can see we've actually got another compartment just underneath there. If we lift this, so that's going to need me to sort of twiddle with it, isn't it? The load space actually is, for quite a small car, really good. That's a lot more than I was expecting. Maybe it's because the roof kind of sweeps up a bit and gives you all the height. I don't know, but that is absolutely remarkable for a little thing like this. Suppose you'd be rivals to this something like a Vauxhall Viva, which was also a 3-door estate. Later the Chevette, that was available also as a 3-door estate, and the Bedford Chevan. But yeah, you could fit all sorts of stuff in there. I'll see if I can get that compartment open. I'm not promising anything. We might be able to see if there's a spare or something underneath there, but that's a really, really practical shape, and seeing this load cover is incredible. It's just a symphony of brown. Russet brown on the outside, brown vinyl for the load blind, and then for the interior, yet another shade of brown. This is just sort of the 70s all over, isn't it? Right, let me fix this back in position and then we'll continue. Wow, that was absolutely worth it. Look at all this space in here. Tons and tons of space for spare wheels and cleaners and belts and all sorts of things. That is great. There's a little stay as well that you can use to prop that up. Although currently my hand is keeping it up, so we won't stay in here for too long. But yeah, so you lower this down very carefully. You get a completely flat floor with no load lip and a huge underfloor stowage compartment. That's actually really, really practical. Right, let me see if I can do this back up. Okay, well, we like the coach line in here, don't we, viewers? Allegro Club International, helping to keep your Allegro on the road. So, just more brown. Loads and loads more brown. And there are these indicator and wiper stocks that were on so many British Leyland products, and actually some other cars as well used these. Sink into the seat. That's a brake fluid check level light. Lights, reading window, hazard light switch, heating and ventilation. Unlike some Allegros, we've actually got a clock in here and it's working, which is brilliant. We've only got 45,000 miles on the clock in this one, although that could be 145,000 miles. Who knows? And there's the rear wiper. Next to it, there's the bonnet release. It's actually sort of comfortable. I mean, I'm going to have to push the seat back a little bit. Unlike in Vauxhall Chevette L, you do actually get some adjustment for the seat. You can move it back and forth. 5-speed gearbox, because this is the 1500cc unit with the E-Series engine. Got this old looking radio. It's actually a modern unit with an SD card in it, which is fantastic, and USB. That's one of the most convincing looking sort of newer radios I've ever seen. That's absolutely fantastic. It's even got a little sort of tuner dial in the middle. Wonderful. Ashtray there. Glove box, I think you pop open like that. Yeah, we're going to see if we can get the secret mission documents in there. One thing that's really strange about this car, I don't know if some of the higher trims had this, but there's no door pockets. There's none of them at all. We got a chat from Magic Roundabout hanging down from there though, so nothing could be too bad, can it, if he's there? That bulb, I think, has been replaced with an LED, which is good to see that it actually works. It's just nice, simple interior. The Corsic wheel, which is actually in that Allegro there, that's a 74. That wasn't fitted much beyond the production of that car. It's discontinued either in 74 or 75, I forget exactly which one it was now. Right, let's get my secret mission documents out, and then we're going to have to get in the back, aren't we, viewers? Mr. Manning from the Matty's Cars YouTube channel. We go to great lengths to satisfy your every whim. Isn't it fantastic? Either an original or reproduction dealer sticker for this car from All Electric Garages in Birmingham. So, we'll have a look at the secret mission documents and see if they go in. Please wear your seatbelts, I intend to. Wasn't compulsory, of course, to wear the seatbelts in front until 1983. Brilliant. Secret mission document storage, passed. Okay. Look at this sort of brown carpet in here. So push that down. Actually, it's quite clever the way that moves. And we've got some speakers hidden under the rear seats. That's really, really handy, actually. So, good mechanism for getting in. Better than like, I don't know, a Mark II Polo or something. That's pretty terrible. Oh, it's not a huge gap though to get in. Right, let's see if we can actually sit down. Ooh, we do, we can. We can, it's nice and soft. Is that locked in place? Yeah, okay. Well, the headroom's pretty good. Actually, this is pretty decent. It's actually much more spacious than I thought it would be, because these aren't massive cars at all. Wow. Okay. And inertia reel seatbelts too. The same type as in the Bentley 8 that I drove recently. Brilliant. So far so good, viewers. I'm very happy with this car. Will I be happier when we look under the bonnet? Well, let's see. Okay, so here are these Series 3 interior door handles again. Let's pull the bonnet release. That is quite a noise. Right, unlike some channels, I'm going to have to use two hands to open this up. I suppose you've got some fog lights in here. Maybe that's why it's a supercar. Brilliant. So here is the 1.5 E-Series engine, which in this application generated about 70 PS. Transmission in sump, rather like a Mini, and rather like the other A-Series Allegros. See, by this stage we're the Austin Morris Group of British Leyland. This is a 79 car. Not so much more cramped really than the A-Series Allegro, just a single carb on this one. You could get a 1750 Allegro with twin carbs. This one is just a single carb. But maintenance actually looks pretty straightforward. There's the fuel filter. It's actually trying to find the gearbox separately because it's in the sump. Yeah, brake servo, I think. Oh, sorry, no, brake servo is there. That's part of the carb on there. Yeah, looks like maintenance is really easy. I'm impressed actually how rust-free this car is. You could sort of joke and say that it would be quite difficult to separate the rust from the rest of the car, but I think we'd see that if it was. Yeah, it's impressively rust-free, this. Right, let's go have another drive, shall we, viewers? Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. So now we turn round and we're going the other way again, accelerating. The gearbox doesn't feel like a normal front-wheel drive car end-on gearbox, of course, because it's a tri-piston sum, so it feels a little bit different. But I'm really appreciating the extra 10 horsepower or so that this car has over the 1.3 on the road, just getting out of junctions and things. And the fact we've got a fifth gear is drop the RPM right down at 50 miles an hour, which is really nice. The biggest problem with these cars is just there's not many of them around. I mean, the standard Allegro is pretty rare, particularly in this sort of condition, but these estates, it always feels like a moot point me saying anything in terms of reviewing these cars, because the likelihood of you going out and trying to find one on Auto Trader or eBay or something is really, really low. Maybe a good place to start is Allegro Club International, and you know, maybe one of their members has a car for sale. I've seen people working on these at the NEC and things like that, and you know, compared to the modern car, they're really not that bad. I mean, obviously in '73 when these came out, they would have seemed really complicated, but actually in the context of a lot of the '70s stuff I've now driven, and you know, I've driven a lot more of it than I had in 2021 when I drove Alex's Allegro. This car actually seems pretty good. They're not as prone to rust as actually some of the other cars from the '70s were. That was a myth. It was an interview with somebody who thought he was being asked about the ADO 16s, one of the Allegros. But obviously we're now over 40 years since the Allegro finished production in 1982, so anything you need to check thoroughly for rust. Both the A-Series and E-Series engines are prone to oil leaks, and you need to have a look at that quite carefully. And you've got to make sure that you've got somebody around to look after your hydrogas displacers. Obviously Ian Kennedy runs a very good company that does those for a lot of people who have things like Metros and Allegros, and even the hydroelastic cars like the Land Crab and the ADO 16. But I don't see why, you know, you shouldn't consider one of these. You're looking for something to take to shows, something to actually kind of use on more of a frequent basis even, actually, because this car's probably quite well set up. The car obviously is very well tuned. It feels very responsive. It doesn't take that much to adjust to driving this. It's a little bit noisier than a modern car, but then of course refinement levels when this car was designed in the early 70s just weren't like they are today. So I'm very grateful to have had a chance to drive this, and I don't know, I quite like it. You either love or you hate the styling, but I think this car is pretty good. So viewers, it might be a bit of a moot point, but should you buy an Austin Allegro estate with your hard-earned budget of between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, if you don't mind one or two idiosyncrasies, the rear seats are not the easiest to fold. I've shown them in the video, actually sort of folded down, but it takes a bit of an effort to do that. I wish they built like a 5-door estate version of the Allegro or the Chevelle, something like that, but they never did. You do have a very supportive owners club with these cars, and it's just a matter of taste, whether you like the styling or you don't. I think it's quite interesting. This really well preserved example is actually something that sort of benchmark perhaps cars that you would be looking at against. but I've really enjoyed it. I'm pleased to have added another Allegro to the Sensible Secondhand Classics collection. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below. Thank you once again to Graham for allowing me to drive this car, and we shall see you again soon for more the reasonably priced nostalgic motoring.
Every day with blue skies.